For a guy called Invincible, he gets beaten to a pulp in like 7 of the 8 episodes of the show. I first saw Invincible in a short 5-minute video clip of the scene in the first episode where Omni-Man comes home after defending the White House, Mark gets beaten up defending a girl in his school, and then launches a trash bag into space at his job. So, normal teenage stuff. At the time, I had just finished watching Young Justice Season 3, which is one of my favourite shows, and I'd only learnt about its renewal quite recently, so I had a hankering for more animated superhero shows. And this looked right up my alley, especially with such a good cast of amazing actors and voice actors featuring in it as well, so most of which I very heavily enjoyed. Watching the first episode was exactly what I'd expected it to be. Knockoff Justice League saves the president with help of knockoff Superman. His kid gets his powers and starts trying to find out who he is and how he should use them and what his superhero name should be. Pretty standard, but honestly quite enjoyable stuff. Then the last 15 minutes of the first episode happened, and I was caught off guard.
Oh no. Why?
So yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is not a kids show. Despite how it seems to be one at the start, there is a lot of death, blood, gore, swearing, sex, and most importantly, somebody smokes. I, for one, am so glad that Netflix decided that they'd censor the smoking in the next season of Stranger Things. A totally kid-friendly and completely safe-to-watch show for your children, but the smoking done by a grown, adult character who can make their own decisions and choices based off of their own personal beliefs and character, especially during the time that it's supposed to be set, was absolutely disgusting. Hopefully they censor this in the next season of Invincible too. But on a more serious note, this show is really good and definitely deserves a watch. And with it being renewed for 2 more seasons, this is by far an amazing show which needs all of your support, and has more amazing quality coming, which I'm extremely excited for. Now, despite how much I do dislike Amazon for their treatment of their workers and some of their company policies, such as throw money at something to make it good, I'm extremely excited at the direction their streaming service is taking, with shows like The Boys and Invincible being more darker and morally complex stories, which actually give me a slither of hope for the Fallout series they're making. When it was first announced, the show seemed to be just another kiddie animated feature trying to capitalise off of the growing frenzy around superheroes, and that was something I was cool with. But it slaps those expectations in the face with the end of the first episode, which gets you psyched up for the rest of the show and wondering where it goes from here, and leaves you with so many questions that all get expertly answered at the end of the season, which leaves you with even more questions, which will, well, more likely than not, end up being answered in the second season, which will therefore set up more questions and so on and so forth. But it is such an amazing show, and it will leave you wanting more after the first episode. There's a lot of dark themes too, and a large amount of talent in the show, with notable actors and voice actors, such as Justin Roiland, showing up for only a single episode and about 10 lines in it total. But one thing that the show does, which since I first saw in Young Justice and absolutely fell in love with, is take all of these relatively unrelated plot points in different episodes and using them to show you something which may prove to be a vital plot point later on, or teased at the ending slideshow of how the finale is something coming up in the next season, and tying them all together in the end with a nice little tidy bow. Even though Invincible doesn't do this to the degree that Young Justice did in its first season, which honestly I don't think any show has or could ever beat Young Justice at that, it's still an amazing thing to pull off, and I'm extremely excited at the writing quality in Invincible, as it really gets me excited for what the next season holds. For instance, we see a character get beaten by Invincible in the first episode, and later on in the season we see him again. This time, though, he's asking for Invincible to help him take down a rapper turned mob boss who accidentally swallowed his mic, making him have indefinite autotune, which becomes the whole episode's story and conflict.
3, 2... Oh, hello, Invincible. Titan.
Boss?
You're right. You're so strong and tough. And you fly all over the goddamn place. It's amazing.
Thanks. You know a lot about me.
I also knew exactly when you and this giant pile of shit would walk in here and ruin my doors. Also, Italian maple, by the way.
With Omnidad saying Mark shouldn't help because it's beneath him and too small an issue, which is odd considering he's a superhero, so he should want to help wherever he can, and against the injustice that this man is causing on all these innocent people, especially since he's a mob boss as well, hiring superhuman people with as much money as he does. Taking him down would be a huge feat, and would definitely improve the status of justice in the world.
Even if that was true, you're a Viltrumite, okay? You fought off an alien invasion, saved the country from an asteroid. This is beneath you.
But, of course, we already know why he doesn't want to do this, since we've already seen him kill a room full of people, and destroy an entire planet in a single episode, in a little montage at the end. But Mark and his mom don't know this, and this further fuels his mother's suspicions that not all is right with Omni-Man, and it creates this slight rift between Mark and his dad. This shows us that, despite his father telling him not to, Invincible isn't afraid to do what he thinks is right, and fights Soundboard Head to help out the communities he's hurting, and also the guy who he beat up. This shows us how strong a sense of justice and morality he has, that he is willing to go against authority figures to do what he believes is right. However, he gets the absolute shit beaten out of him, for lack of a better term, which shows us just how unprepared he is for an actual combat engagement against a prepared, trained, and deadly enemy, or enemies in form of the lackeys Daft Punk hired to defend him. Whereas we see his dad, Omni-Man, as I said earlier, make an entire species extinct in the end of the second episode in a small little montage, a sequence which shows Omni-Man's brutality and efficiency. He does this in a minute-long clip, remember, so it just shows you how powerful and how relentless Omni-Man is. And compared with his son, it's a really huge contrast that you can't miss and is extremely vital to the plot. The fight then has the new Guardians of the Globe. The originals were murdered by Omni-Man, join in the fight to help defend Invincible and Dwayne Johnson against Mouthpiece, and their performance in the fight highlights just how uncoordinated, unprepared, undertrained, overwhelmed, and how little they act as a team and more so act as individuals they do when they're up against a group of supervillains, and it really just highlights how bad a condition they're in. Now, in the first episode, we see one of these villains defeated in a literal second by one of the original Guardians in the first episode again alone. And here they're a huge threat to the new Guardians. The fight is only won after one of the villains, who beats the shit out of about half of the heroes there, leaves, and he says that he came there for a challenge, and that there is none. Usually this could just be considered, casual bad guy taunting. But since he says it just as he's leaving, and also considering the fight that the others put up, you can really just tell that he was expecting something and he got absolutely nothing out of this. Because the new Guardians are so bad. And Invincible as well, they're just pushovers, and he defeats them so easily. Eventually, however, Travis Scott does lose, and the heroes get rushed to the hospital, and we see Medusa's victim become the new Kingpin, and we realise he was using Invincible the whole time. We see him again in the slideshow at the end as the new boss, suggesting a plot revolving around him in the next season. If I had to guess, then I would say that Cement Guy, he feels like he owes Invincible for helping him get to where he is. And so he's like, so when they come into conflict, he's like, hey, if you fight me now, the favour that I owe you, it's gone. And I owe you a huge favour. And this could set up a huge thing where Invincible's like, he needs to use that favour at some point, but he doesn't want to because the guy cheated him, lied to him, used him, manipulated him, left him for dead, and became exactly what he wanted Invincible, to fight against. I think that is where it's going, and note, I haven't read any of the comics, and I don't intend to. I don't want to spoil the show for myself. It's a really powerful, important episode, however, and it shows us the capabilities of these new heroes and their underwhelming performance, as well as Invincible's strong need to do the right thing and belief in the good of others, despite being given no reason to trust or help them based on prior experiences with them, on his morals and his trust alone. But the plot of the show itself is where it is really interesting. We see a unique and fresh take on the superhero genre, which I am all for and hope to see more of in other shows, and this one doesn't ever pull any punches or stop being as good as it is. And that's an amazing quality it has. It also doesn't have Ezra Miller's character land on Gal Gadot's stunt doubles boobies for a cheap gag and, all around creepy scene. Looking at you, Joss Whedon. The show also has an amazing season finale, which expertly encapsulates who the true characters of Omni-Man and Invincible are, and where their moral compasses, feelings, thoughts, and the extents they are willing to go to complete their goals and what their goals are, lie. It's an extremely moving, emotional finale, and a single line of dialogue in it has made me cry more tears than any Marvel movie I've ever seen. And I'm not afraid to say that at all. I am not afraid to say that I cried during the finale. It's a compliment, in fact, just how amazing the show is that it managed to cause such an emotional reaction out of me like that in the first season. It's a fun, bloody, beautiful, moving, deep, cool, and amazing show, which I would recommend to anyone who likes superhero media, or even isn't that into it, as it's just an unbelievably good show.
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die! Think, Mark! You'll outlast every fragile, insignificant being on this planet! You'll live to see this world crumble to dust and blow away! Everyone and everything you know will be gone! What will you have after 500 years?
You, Dad. I still have you. Dad?
Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, then please subscribe for more content from me. I'm hoping to have the first part in a very large series that I've been working on for some time out in the soon, hopefully. Next 3 months, I bet. It is a rather large project. So I do hope you'll stick around for that. Like the video, subscribe, and please stick around for more. Thank you.